Well, SpaceX has launched 3 rich businessmen and their astronaut escort to the International Space Station for more than a week's stay at $55 million each. It is SpaceX's first private charter flight to the orbiting lab after 2 years of carrying astronauts there for NASA. Joining me now live is Brad Tucker, astrophysicist and cosmologist at ANU. Brad, great to see you. I tell you what, that kind of a price, you hope it would be money well spent, but look, it's finally launched.
Look, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the whole trip is 10 days, so at 70 million Australian dollars, it's $7 million a day. So you want your money's worth. But as you said, this has been building up. They were originally looking at a scheduled launch back in October. Mission was reconfigured, moved till the second half of this now. And so, as you said, they finally got off. They're on their way now. So they have another about 6 hours or so, 7 hours, until they actually dock with the space station. So it takes about 24 hours or so to get to the space station. They will spend then 8 days on the space station, all 4 of them, and then come back down again in a reverse process. So definitely an excitement. And it's also very different from the missions we saw, starting last year with Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin. Those things really just go to the cusp of the technical edge of the Earth with space. And they're only up there for a few minutes. So this is obviously much longer, and they will be in space for a very prolonged period.
Russia has been hosting tourists at the space station for some time. So are all these other companies almost playing catch up now, Brad?
A bit. Yeah, that's right. So, the Russians did start this. Denis Tito was the first person. In fact, they got a bargain. They only paid $20 million.
Wow.
So, inflation's a lot in 25 years. Now, with those missions, I guess that was different. This was a space-focused mission, and one of the seats happened to be a tourist. So everyone else was doing science, and they were just kind of for the ride along. I think what makes this different here is the only purpose is tourism. And so this is kind of this unique venture that we're starting to see, where instead of it being kind of a simple add-on, this is this focus of these missions, and this is the primary business model of these groups. And I think the other aspect of Axiom Space, now this is the group that is managing the operation of these astronauts, is they want to get into the private astronaut business. So what that would mean is they would train and have professional astronauts, but instead of being an astronaut as part of a country and doing that work and research, you would do it as part of this company and the scientific goals in that mission. And in fact, the pilot or the commander of this mission has spent 4 times in space on NASA and is an Axiom Space employee. So, the business model essentially is dramatically changing. And I think Axiom Space really highlights how it is evolving.
Yeah, well, a bargain at $20 million. Goodness me. Now, NASA will take another stab at a critical test of its Artemis 1 moon mission this weekend, Brad.
That's right. So, we talked about last weekend when they were starting to get ready for this test, and they were just starting. Now, essentially on the final day of the test, which is also the most critical, and that is where they actually start filling up the tanks of the rocket, do essentially the countdown, and then pump them out. And now this is a pure practice and safety procedure to make sure that you can fuel safely and can remove that fuel safely in the advent that there is a delay in launch and those sorts of things. Now, there was a slight leak, or essentially the flow wasn't as great from the fuel hose essentially into the rocket, and they delayed it. It took them a few days. They didn't fix it. So in fact, they postponed it to this weekend because they were actually delaying the Axiom 1 mission. So they wanted that mission to go ahead. And with the Space Launch System on the launch pad and taking that room, they couldn't get that rocket up. So they said, all right, well, we need a few more days. We will halt. We will let the Axiom mission happen as it did. And now we'll resume launching and hopefully finalizing this test on Monday our time.
Okay, well, fingers crossed it all goes to plan. I'm sure we will discuss that in our next time as well. Now, Brad, NASA's Hubble Space Telescope has directly photographed a planet. Why is this planet forming?
Yeah, and this is kind of special because most of the times we see planets, we just see the light changing by something kind of passing in front of the star. Here, by staring at a very nearby star, what we call a protoplanetary disk, this is kind of the beginnings of birth of our planets. They saw this little bright dot from the star, and that's what you're seeing now. Now, the star here, shaped asterisk matches where the location of the star is. And that bright dot just below, they saw over the course of 10 years, it slowly moved. Now, stars and planets do move a lot, but over the course of 10 years from a star system thousands of light years away, the movement is small. They realized, yes, this indeed is a planet forming as we speak. But what was really peculiar about it was how far away this planet is. So this planet is 2 to 3 times further away from its star than Pluto is in our solar system. And it's 2 to 3 times bigger than Jupiter. So you have a really big thing falling on the outside of the solar system. And this is a kind of an area that we're very interested in, because things like Jupiter almost start to become stars, and then something prevents them from accumulating enough gas and turning into a star. So they kind of fail. Not quite. It's not we're saying that Jupiter's a failure, but it didn't achieve all it could. And so seeing something bigger and further away is starting to give us clues into how this failure, this decision between becoming a star and planet happens.
How fascinating. I'm sure more to come, more discoveries to come from that as well. Just finally, Brad, the biggest galaxy radio wave laser has been discovered.
Yeah, and look, this is kind of the laser you sort of think about where you're shining a little pin. But in this case, it's a laser from a galaxy of microwaves. And we call this a maser microwave laser. So what we have here is essentially a massive collision between two galaxies. And it's concentrated a lot of the gas, in this case, what we call a hydroxyl, kind of like peroxide, oxygen and hydrogen. And it shoots it out in this huge beam from the black holes, and it happens to be directed at us. Now, nothing is harmful here, but it's this big torch saying, hey, I'm here. We're a big galaxy that's just colliding, and there's a big black hole in the center causing this disruption. So it's a really cool sign, and they're very rare to see, but they give us lots of clues into how these galaxies combine to form bigger ones. But we can also use them as great measuring tools across the distance. So it's an exciting discovery by a telescope, what we call Meerkat, that's just starting its operation. So hopefully it will find more of these, what we call mega masers.